Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am Zach, one of the hosts, and the other host is Chris. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Zach, welcome back
Yeah.
from your travels. So great to have you back, of course. Glad you made it back safely. Outstanding. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful time. I know you did because we connected while you were there, but it's just awesome, my friend, that you were there.
Yeah, it was busy, man. Not busy in the sense of, having to be, you know, from schedule of events, like from one thing to the next to a panel to a signing. Like it wasn't, I intentionally didn't schedule a bunch of stuff. I intentionally didn't buy a bunch of things ahead of time. Just kind of wanted to go there and then figure out, kind of what I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
I will say that I really didn't sit in on many panels. I did listen to Shatner speak again because, I mean, he's there. You got to listen to him speak.
Yeah.
And I sat in on two panels. One was a Picard season 3 panel with Liz. I don't want to say her last name because I'm going to butcher it again. She's was the art director for Picard season 3. Dave Blass, who I believe was the production designer, and then Todd Marks, who was the playback supervisor. All
Yes.
people who made the magic come together on screen for us in Picard season 3. So went to one of their panels, was fantastic. And then another panel I only listened to because I was sitting in the main theater waiting to go see Nana, and got a chance to say hi to her and had her sign something for me. So that was wonderful. And met Armin again, had him sign something for me. But I intentionally didn't do that.
Yeah.
Most of the time I went to this with the thought in mind of I want to spend most of the time hanging out with friends, which I did, meeting new people, networking, that kind of stuff, sharing the podcast with people. And so that was kind of the focus of it. And it was busy in the sense that we were in a lot of groups, people, and hanging out, and we went out to dinner with several people, a couple people from Picard we went out to dinner with, and some other stuff. Went out to dinner with Tracy Coco.
Yeah.
I got hang out with her a couple times. That was wonderful. Yeah, I mean, just hung out with Liz, hung out with Todd Marks, hung out with Max Cervantes. So hung out with a lot of people. It was great just to kind of let the hair down. Even though I got my haircut today, let the hair down and just just nerd out and have fun and get to know people. It's great.
That's great, man. Did it seem like Doug and Tracy and Max that they enjoyed it as well? I hope they had a blast.
Yeah. So saw Doug, gave him a huge hug, and talked to him for a few minutes. Got to meet his girlfriend Donna, I believe is her name. Wonderful lady. She's already a celebrity.
Wonderful.
And it was cool seeing him a couple times. Talked to Denise and Mike Okuda. Talked to Terry Metalis. Got to meet Christina Chong. So there's that. Twice actually.
That's awesome, man.
Actually, let me see. Can you see she is back here?
Yeah.
It might be kind of hard to see. And if you're watching us, and then there's Bruce. So I saw Bruce again. It was Bruce Horak's birthday, and while he's in Vegas, I think we talked about that during our video. So as you may notice, I have a couple of red shirts up here now behind me. If you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to us, I have a couple photos behind me that are signed, one by Bruce Horak, who he wrote Red Shirts Forever, which is awesome. And then one signed by Christina Chong as my favorite character in SNW Lawn. So yeah, it was a great time. Had a blast. Many people, I talked to many people actually that had either seen or listened to us, and they said, "Oh, where's Chris at?" And I said, "You couldn't make it." He's like, "Well, we're missing him. Hope he gets to make it the next time."
Absolutely. I want to make it the next time.
Yeah.
Does he, as far as you know, do you think it's going to be at the Rio again next year?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, things can happen, but I have a feeling it will be.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. That's going to be.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really
man.
awesome. But so if this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast, welcome. We're a couple of nerdy guys who love everything science fiction and nerdy, and we like Star Trek, Star Wars, and everything in between. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to go on there and follow us there for our latest episode updates and celebrity guest announcements, as well as head to our YouTube channel unless you're watching us already, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the show. That being said, I will say really quickly, Chris, one more thing about the convention. The reason why I didn't go to more panels, I only went, like I said, I only went to a couple, is because A, I was just kind of there to network and hang out with people and meet new people and stuff like that. But B, because of the strike, they really couldn't talk about a lot of stuff. So they had to talk more of like personal stories and family, which isn't a bad thing, but they couldn't really talk about what everybody was there to talk about, which of course was Star Trek and their characters and shows and things like that. Like William Shatner just told a whole bunch of different stories about stuff he had encountered recently with technology. It was very funny still. I mean, the dude's always entertaining. It's one thing, if nothing else, Shatner knows how to entertain people. And it was good, but he didn't talk about Star Trek because he can't.
Yeah.
So that really stunk. No questions either from the audience. So that stunk too. At least in his panel. There were a couple other panels where people could ask questions, but there weren't many questions this year, probably because people couldn't ask the questions they wanted to.
Oh, interesting. So during the Shatner one, like no questions, no one.
No, that they didn't have time, and I think that
Okay.
was intentional because people would probably ask about Star Trek or a lot of questions would be, and he couldn't answer most of it. Actually, he couldn't answer really any of the work he had done for the most part.
Okay. Actually, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So, but it was still fun, and I had a blast, and one of the might be the most memorable convention I've had, just from the standpoint of people I met, hanging out. I did a little bit of recording for the Shuttle Pod show.
Yeah.
Saw Mark and Erica in person again. That was wonderful. So it was great.
Do you have a sense of, did Mark and Erica say when they thought the recording might come out for the Shuttle Pod show?
I don't know. They were using it as bits and pieces. So they had people, they asked some people to record like hey, this is so and so, and this is the Shuttle Pod show. And they had other people do the Dominic, they call it Dominic and Connor's Deserted Island questions,
yeah.
So I did that. So it was fun. A lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that being said, we are covering here episode number 9 of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, entitled Subspace Rhapsody. This is as far as I know, this is the first ever Star Trek musical episode. Like, I'm talking like actual full-on musical episode. There has been music and songs and things like that in other Star Trek episodes, but I'm pretty sure this is the first quote-unquote musical episode.
Yes, I believe you're right. I mean, the other episodes where I recall music and song, like I recall Picard singing in a few different TNG episodes for that. But this one, I think, is the first full-on musical, and took me back when you informed me that it was coming out. I think we both were very, very skeptical, and not sure how to make of it.
Yeah.
I will say I have enjoyed musicals greatly, like in the past. Like, I'm a super big fan of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical. I loved the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical. That's like one of my favorite Buffy episodes like ever. So yeah, but we were both kind of skeptical on this one, and season 2 of Strange New Worlds is it's gone like back and forth, so it's just been this whole range of different types of episodes.
Yeah,
right?
almost like some extremes, right?
Yeah.
I did notice too, I believe before the episode ever came out, they released the music for the episode. I think on different music platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, I believe. And I'm pretty sure all the songs in this episode are all original.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think they're new and original. I think they wrote them specifically for this particular episode. I don't think they're not, as far as I know, they're not borrowed, especially because a lot of the wording in the music is Star Trek centric.
Yeah. Just looking at what we researched, it looked like 10 new songs. So new.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And the choreography was interesting. There was a scene in this episode where we had red shirts dancing down the hallway. Did we not?
Oh, we did. Yes, we did.
I mean, we're the Random Redshirt podcast. If there's going to be something red shirt going on, we've got to make sure we mention it, right?
Yeah. So they had their dancing scene.
Yeah,
I liked that.
And no red shirts were harmed in the making of those dances.
That's true. That should have been a disclaimer, like in the credits.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No red shirts died in the process of making this musical episode.
Exactly.
We got a break from the red shirt deaths.
Yeah. For the most part, like most of the ensemble cast, I think, sang at least some parts.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, I think it was, I'll get into some of my thoughts later, but it was
Yeah.
very interesting. Like I thought some of the music was really good. Some of it was so.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight against people singing that. I think it's just the music composition was okay, but I definitely like some songs better than others, and we'll talk about that towards the end as we share just some of our overall thoughts of the episode. But let's jump into this. Very interesting here, Chris, because we look at this episode, and again, this episode opens up with another somewhat personal log, right? It's not Captain's log; it's another character's log.
Yeah, Uhura is another log by Uhura.
Yeah.
I like the idea that they're spreading out those logs a lot between amongst the different characters. I know they've done that before,
right,
in Star Trek, but it always gives you like insight into the characters' personalities when they do their own personal logs or communications there. So good for them to do that. But yeah, it opens up with Uhura doing her officer's log, detailing a new, what I guess they called a subspace fold that they found in the far reaches of Federation space. And they believe, at least they felt, that they can use it to their advantage to boost communications within the Federation, like by tenfold or by several magnitudes, to be able to help them. So yeah. So their intent is use it, right? Help them.
Yeah, and I'm recalling this off the top of my head. So Trekkies, don't get out there and lose your mind when I say this if I'm wrong. But if I remember correctly, this period of time in the Federation, I don't think they had subspace communication networks. They had to rely on communication relay, right?
Yeah.
In order to get their communication. Subspace communication is much faster, obviously, because it's not traveling through normal space, right? We hear this idea of open a subspace channel many times in TNG, DS9, and I don't think too much in Voyager because they're in the Delta Quadrant, so they wouldn't have the same relay system. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think at this point they don't have the ability to use subspace communication the way we see that in TNG and DS9.
I think you're correct. And
if you're watching or listening, feel free to hit us up and let us know. Just do it respectfully, but let us know, hey, actually, actually they did. But I'm just off the top of my head, I don't think that they're able to communicate through subspace channels, or at least not frequently. And that's kind of why this would be a significant deal, because they're really far out, right?
Yeah. This makes me want to go research up that topic. I think I'll do that
a
little bit later. What is subspace?
Yeah, we'll have to do that later.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if my intuition was correct on this
one. Be good. So we've got a little bit about Uhura and what setting up the beginning of the episode and what they're looking at, and we do get a little bit of Pike at the beginning too. Very nice conversation that we've got with Pike and Captain Patel. And I like that they're trying to plan their vacation. I thought that was a very nice moment. And you see, like, Captain Batel, she's really excited about the vacation together. And I thought, oh, Pike doesn't look excited at all. Like he's not wanting to do this. So come on, Pike,
Well, I think I think part of it is so we've talked about before, right? Pike has this kind of Boy Scout type reputation.
Yeah.
And kind of going along those lines of Boy Scout would be this idea that he likes to just, he wants to go out in the woods somewhere in a cabin and fish and be alone. Yeah. He's not an isolationist, but he's completely fine with his kind of own time like that. He doesn't need to go on some, fancy vacation and go this, that, go here and go there and be with all these people. He likes to just have some relaxation time, which makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, if you look back on the history of captains, a lot of the captains like their own time, right? I mean, even when Picard was forced to go to I think it was Risa, wasn't it?
Riza.
And relax, and no one would leave him alone. He just want to sit on the outside in the sun and read a book by himself. Cisco had his moments where he liked to be alone. Even Janeway had her moments in her quarters by herself. Even sometimes she had to be forced out because she felt guilty for bringing everybody to the Delta Quadrant. And I guess Archer in some extent would too. But yeah, I think there's when you're a captain and you constantly have all this in your head, right? Everything's going on. You're constantly to make decisions. Everybody's bringing you everything. You just need a mental break from the grind. And we can relate to that.
We can totally relate to that. You need to go somewhere where there's no connectivity, whether you're just out by yourself, whether it's out in nature on Earth or another planet where no one can get to you.
If only we had the option of other planet.
Yeah.
Like off world for a while.
That's right. Yeah. So we had the return of another character. I'm sorry, Zach. We did. I think you only had one. I think you only had like one episode in between to take a breather, but we did have the return of another character, and we had Kirk. We had now first. I think he's first officer now when he comes on the show. But
I think so. You're right.
Yeah. We're close to becoming first officer from the Farragut. If I'm gonna just...
it's a Farragut. Yeah, because we know that's a ship that Kirk was on before he becomes on the Enterprise. That's all they backed in the original series.
Yeah. So he is back. He is back for some business, and we have like Una and Leon, being able to meet him. And I think it was here where, as they're waiting, as Una and Leon are waiting for Kirk to beam on, I think there's a cute exchange between Una and Leon where Una says, "There's this energy about you, Leon. Like, what's going on?" So
I didn't like this.
You didn't like that. I gotcha.
Her crush on Kirk, even though the Kirk that she has a crush on doesn't exist anymore. Right. I mean, he was killed. He was from an alternate reality. He was killed. Yeah. I'm not a fan. I mean, yes, it'd be nice if Lon found love, but not Kirk. Kirk is not the guy she should be chasing after.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a reputation. He builds. Maybe he doesn't have the reputation right now, but he becomes, who he is later on.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
That's good. And we get a little bit of Nurse Chapel, my favorite character.
Yeah.
So we get to find out that I think it's an internship application a fellowship application was accepted. So she is super excited that she's gotten in. And that's going to apparently take her away from the Enterprise for 3 months, which does make me curious how they do that in the sequence of the season. Or maybe she goes on the fellowship at the end of the season and then she just comes back normally at the beginning of season 3.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like they could just do it so she doesn't have to be off the ship. Maybe they do it in between the seasons, right? So there's like a multi-month gap between the end of the season 2 and beginning of season 3 in the timeline. Or they do it where she leaves the ship, like you said, maybe the end of this season, and then maybe the first 1 or 2 episodes at most, hopefully, she would come back after those, right? She's still away, and then she comes back. And actually, that would kind of make sense, right? So for season 3, maybe in the first like episode or 2 of season 3, she's trying to communicate with Spock, while he's still on the Enterprise, and she's at the Fellowship talking about how it's going and stuff, and then eventually she comes back. So maybe that'd be an option.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good option that they could employ for this. Yeah.
Now, that being said, with the strike, I don't know how long that's going to delay season 3. I mean, I don't think we were going to get season 3 until next year anyways, but I'll be curious if the actor and writer strike, depending on how long it goes, how much of a delay there will be with season 3 of Strange New Worlds and anything else for that matter.
Yeah, you're right, because they must be in some form of production still on season 3, I would imagine.
I don't
That
think
they're
they've started season 3 yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't even, oh, I haven't heard. I don't know for sure, but I don't think they've started season 3 yet at all. I mean, maybe they had started preliminary writing,
Yeah.
but then there's a writer strike. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at with that. And when hopefully it ends soon so that people can get back to work and they're fairly compensated and so forth. But as far as like the timeline of events, how that's going to affect when we get season 3.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Depending on how long this goes, it could end up pushing season 3 into 2024, which will be a really a big bummer. Obviously, I know it's pales in comparison to what the writers and actors are fighting for, right? But I'm just saying, for us fans, it'd be a bummer that would happen.
Yeah. If that happens, we'll have to do some more deep dives into some existing episodes, which we will, of course.
Oh yeah. We still have our Spotlight series. In fact, our next Spotlight series, since we're going to go through Mirror, is going to be the next Mirror episode, which will be in DS9.
Yeah, which is a super good one.
Yeah. Several good ones from that Mirror universe that take place in DS9.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we've got, we pretty much go to the next scene where we've got Spock and Uhura and our new engineer Pelia in engineering, kind of investigating what the space fold can do, what it is, trying to send signals through it to see if they can, get stuff through it. But I think they're pretty unsuccessful. Like at first, they're not able to get anything through. They're venting frustrations pretty much immediately. And I think it's Pelia, right, that makes the suggestion on why don't you send harmonics through to see if those signals go through, something like that. So indeed they do. And and it works. And you see there was like some distortion that came through the ship and kind of waved through the ship that they were all affected by. But the first person that gets affected, as far as we see in the episode, the first person that gets affected and sings, I believe, is Spock. Right?
I think so. Yeah. It's interesting too that the Vulcan would be, of all people, would be the first one we see affected by this wave that hits the ship and begins to start singing what he's trying to say instead of just saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Uhura's second and then Spock. And so they start singing there.
Interesting. We never see Pelia sing as far as I can remember. Do we ever see her sing in the whole episode, let alone that first moment in engineering?
I had to go rewatch it. I don't remember.
I don't think we did. I don't ever remember seeing her sing. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just the way everything worked out.
Yeah, it did not stand out to me. So, yeah, that's a good question. So they have because of this, they're realizing, hey, what's going on? And they have an emergency meeting trying to understand what happens. And there's all sorts of theories being thrown about. And the theory here that's discussed in their meeting was it was far-fetched for me, but I guess they were doing anything they could. But Spock theorizes that what they did caused another, essentially a break in the different universes and reality, causing a lot of different parallel universes. And so now one of the random universes that was created was a universe in which uncontrollable singing can just spontaneously happen. And now that they're in that universe. So yeah.
I mean, it's Spock, right? I mean, of course he's gonna look at things like that and go, well, he's gonna theorize stuff, right? That's how you know Spock is. That's how you know Spock is just having to kind of give it his best shot, right? Like remember in Star Trek For the Voyage Home when was it McCoy tells Spock, he's like, well, I guess you're just gonna have to give it your best shot, and he's like, my best shot? Guess, Spock. You're gonna have to guess. And he's like, I can't do that or whatever.
Can't do that. Yeah.
That whole scene where they're back on the Klingon ship and he's trying to have to calculate how to get home, and that whole inner exchange between him and McCoy. Oh my gosh. I mean, any of the exchanges with McCoy and Spock are always great because he always goes back to the, you green-blooded Vulcan.
Yeah. Doesn't he say something like, "I would trust Spock's guesses better than I would trust someone else's certainties," something
I
like
think
that.
that's Kirk who says that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Well, I mean, yeah. Wouldn't you probably?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Spock. There's a lot of things Spock's going to consider when he's making his best guess or giving his best shot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like throughout all of this, with Spock, he's kind of the underlying stuff that's happening with Spock is he's wondering if Nurse Chapel has gotten the acceptance to the fellowship, right? He's not been brought up into speed, he's not informed, he doesn't know. And so
Yeah.
he's a little bit nervous to ask her too, you could see. So he's concerned. And I like Uhura's response is like, why don't you just ask her?
Yeah. Spock's like, I could do that, like not, he didn't say that, but like, oh yeah, yes, I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. And we get after that kind of meeting and exploration of what's going on, we do get to see Kirk and Una. And I think this is where we get the musical number between Kirk and Una, if I'm not mistaken, but they start singing about what it's like to be a first officer.
Yeah.
There.
Now it's
Yeah.
interesting too, because this scene that they're in, this tube they're in,
Yeah.
is very similar
yeah,
design from one in the original series, right?
Yes.
So it's a I want to say it's a little bit of a call, not a callback because the whole show is, but you know what I mean? It's like an homage to TOS, right? It's interesting too. We forgot to mention this when we did our review of those old scientists. At the very end, Ensign Boimler was like, or a Mariner was like, why do you keep calling it TOS? He's like, oh, those old scientists era instead of TOS era, because instead of the original series era, he called it TOS for those old scientists era, which I thought was really good.
Oh, thank
Totally
you.
we forgot to mention that in our review, and I wanted to bring it up now as we're talking about this. But yeah, the tube that Una and Kirk are in is very much similar to there's a famous image of Scotty in one of those exact same tubes. And I believe you also see something pretty close to it in the Trials and Tribulations crossover in DS9.
Yeah.
Very famous scene of that.
Now, are those tubes, and I remember them from TOS, are those tubes the same as Jeffrey's tubes, or are they different? I was trying to remember that.
That's a good question. I would say that they're the TOS era equivalent because we didn't have Jeffrey's tubes back then. I mean, the Jeffrey's tubes were named after Matt Jeffries, starting in TNG, right? Into the crawl spaces in the ship to get around and get to things. They're never comfortable looking. Those metal grates on those knees would just tear people up, right? I mean, you don't see anybody wearing knee pads crawling around inside those tubes, but yeah, I would say they're probably as much as they can be the TOS equivalent.
Yeah.
And they're not the exact same, obviously, but they're the equivalent to it, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
I think I just said that about 15 times the same different way.
No, it's all
talk about repetition.
It's all good. I was wondering why they don't have like those knee pads in TNG. Those knee pads should be like standard issue when you enter in the tubes.
Yeah.
There.
It's like, oh, I got to go work on the Jeffries tubes today. Time to get out my uniform with the knee pads in them, like built-in knee pads, knowing full well that I'm going to be in those tubes. Because, yeah, those things would shred your knees, man.
Woo. Yeah, man. There's a lot of different scenes where when they're in those tubes.
Right?
There should be like a montage of like a montage of scenes from TNG and DS9 where they're going through the tubes.
Well, Voyager too. There's some stuff in Voyager other than they're in the tubes as well. Enterprise has some crawl spaces, but they're not exactly like Jeffrey's tubes. Obviously, it's a prequel ship, so it's not going to be designed the exact same way.
Yeah. Yep. We're giving maintenance advice to Star Trek, which is good.
Yeah. Well, that's, hey, these are our opinions, guys. This is how we share our opinions and our thoughts. So if you have different opinions and thoughts, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, Chris, though, when it comes to this. This is the scene where Kirk and Una break out into song. And then this is also where Lon happens to catch this around the corner and she gets a little jelly.
She does, right? She gets very emotional at that point because she's witnessing them seeing, and she's being very quiet, and she kind of goes into her own space and her own mind, and then she goes to her quarters, and I think that's where we see her. I don't remember if this happens at the end of her singing or before, but you see her open the drawer and pull out the watch. Um, Kirk from the other timeline, Kirk's watch. And then she starts being very vulnerable and then singing. And I thought it was, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. And by the way, if you have not checked out Christina Chong's music in real life, she has an EP that's out now. It's fantastic. It's not normally my style of music, but I think it's really good. And my understanding, I'd read an article where she was like the biggest proponent from the cast that was pushing to do this musical kind of episode. I think she had kind of had the idea and talked about it. And I don't think it was something that, and I think she had brought the idea up and they said, oh, we're planning on doing something, or I'm trying to remember the full article here. And then once they said, oh, hey, we're doing this, then she got really super excited because she's a musician herself. She loves to sing. She's got a good voice, really good voice. And so it would make sense in this case. I really like the song that Lon sings here. How would that feel? I think it's the name of that song.
Yeah, how would that feel?
Really stands apart. It's a very somewhat of a heartbreaking song, right? This is one of those like I love this person, but they don't love me kind of songs, very emotionally driven. Yeah, really, really good. And I love what you mentioned that about the watch, Chris, because that's a really nice little Easter egg from that episode a few episodes ago.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of time to understand what it was, right? Because I think she immediately, or it's very quick, she goes to the watch, she starts singing, and my attention was, of course, drawn to the singing. And then I realized, oh, okay, she's got this watch for some reason, where that watch come from. And then I remembered, oh, okay, that was Kirk's watch from the alternate reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that intentional? The pun? You took you some time to figure out what that was?
It was indeed,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
My pun meter is a little slow, so I'm just making sure.
I did enjoy. I listened to Christina Chong's work. I enjoyed it as well. It was great. So, do you think she was the genesis of the idea for the musical?
I don't think she was the genesis of the idea, but I certainly think that I mean, again, I have to go back and look at the article, but she could have maybe planted the seed a little bit. You look at a lot of actors in Star Trek come from the theater, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're in theater, there's a good chance you've done musicals and dance and song and stuff. And so as an artist herself, as a musician and someone, and she does a lot of dance, I'm sure that that this was right up her alley and something she was really hoping for, and then it happened.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, so incredible music and song that Leon sings there, and that was good. But that does make her kind of worried. Now Leon as the character is like, okay, these innermost emotions are being expressed kind of spontaneously by this music, and so she realizes, hey, this is kind of a risk. This is a security risk now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how soon after, but she does go to the captain and saying, hey, this is happening. It's a security risk, and we got to stop this, essentially. So that was good. But we've got I thought it was cute, and I might be getting my sequence like out of place here, but we've got a cute exchange between Captain Pike and Captain Patel. That happened on the bridge, which was
in front of the crew.
In front of the crew.
On the big screen. And could you imagine being one of the other crew members sitting there going, should we be listening to this? Like, and because I think didn't Pike say he needs to have this in his private in his ready room or something like that, and then she pretty much was like, nope, we're just talking about this now. And then she starts singing, and then it just goes on from there.
Yeah, because she's like, yeah, there you go, you're always running away.
Yeah,
Something like
that's what it is. She guilt trips him, so he's like, "Fine, I'll stand here and talk about this in front of everybody."
That
Yeah,
was awesome.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good. I really like Captain Batel quite a bit, honestly. I think she's really good.
Yeah.
The actress who plays her, I think it's I'm looking at our notes here. Melanie Scrofano, I think is how you say her name.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she does a great job in this role. I really do. I think that I think Captain Batel is a nice balance with Pike, right? Like she keeps him on his toes. She's got somewhat differing viewpoints to a certain extent. She's incredibly smart, incredibly driven. She's a starship captain. She's also a lawyer, apparently.
Yeah.
She's very skilled in many things, which is probably one of the reasons why that makes her a good officer, good captain. I think she's great. I think she adds a lot to the show when she's on it.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
yeah, hats off to her and her performance in this role.
I want to see more of her in the episodes, actually.
Yeah, you
Hopefully.
mentioned that before. I think we just need to keep talking about it more and more, and then if we do, maybe we'll wish it into existence, and we'll have. I kind of have a feeling that at some point, maybe the next season, we'll get a Pike and Captain Batel like specific episode where it's just mostly about them.
Yeah.
A relationship driven, relationship development driven episode.
They can go on their vacation, and then during the vacation, they could have, some things happen, various hijinks that they've got to solve, like on their vacation.
That would be kind of similar to Picard's vacation on Risa, right? Always
Yeah.
getting, Frangie coming after him and everything. That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Nice. So they're having another like emergency meeting to figure out like how are they going to get out through this? And now that they learn the the anomaly has spread throughout much of the fleet, which I love. So a whole bunch of other people are singing. And I think Uhura makes a comment that Admiral April, in one of her conversations with him, he was singing. So I love that. That was great. So yeah, yeah, but Pike is I love how Pike suggests blowing up the subspace fold. Like there's a very quick moment where Pike says, "Hey, let's blow it up with some photon torpedoes," and Spock says something, and then Pike looks at him and goes, "Oh, that would really work." I thought that was cute. If you remember that. Oh, that would work.
Yeah, because doesn't Spock be like, yeah, that actually might be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that kind of catches Pike off guard. He's like, wait, oh, you actually think? Because I think Pike. Wow, I can't speak. Pike is probably thinking, oh, he's going to suggest this, and Spock's going to go, oh, that's a bad idea, sir. Here's why.
Yeah. There were like a couple moments like that with Pike and Spock that I liked. There was also a moment with Kirk and Spock that I like, and this was Spock was explaining something, and he had this very good narrative and technical explanation, and Kirk sat back. Kirk sat back and goes, "Hey, I almost understood that." Said something like that. I think was in this episode. Yeah,
that's something Kirk would say. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's something I kind of want to say in a meeting at some point.
You just got to find a way to work it in. Let me tell you.
I almost understood that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So now they're thinking, okay, they want to blow up the space fold, get this done. Leon's totally afraid that she's going to end up confessing her feelings to Kirk. She's a little bit afraid to work with Kirk at first, but I like this. She kind of accepts and initiates, shows good initiative to say, "Hey, Kirk, you're with me. You're going to work with me." So I like that she's facing it.
Yeah, this episode. So we'll get to more of this towards the end. But this episode, even though it's musical, it does a good job of carrying on story arcs, carrying on relationship development and stuff that we've seen throughout the first season. Right? It's not just this one-off episode where they made an excuse to make it musical and it has absolutely no bearing on anything else. They did a great job of mixing in fantastic new music with continued character development, continued plot development, continued story arcs, and so forth. And one of those things is that we have learned about Lon is that she's very closed off. She doesn't open up much. She doesn't allow herself to be vulnerable for fear of, I guess, weakness, maybe it making her weak or whatever. She's very rigid. And so we started to see her open up and become more vulnerable in that episode Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow when they travel back in time, albeit it was an alternate Kirk. And we're starting to see this here, right? And even I believe at one point Una even encourages her to become more vulnerable and open up and allow and share her feelings, because in one of the songs that Una sings, she says something to the effect of like, I used to be that way. I used to keep everything in because I had to hide who I was as an Illyrian for fear of rejection. And it carries over to this as well with La'an keeping that in for fear of rejection, in this case by Kirk. So this is something that's being continued from a previous episode, along with other things too, like the relationship between Chapel and Spock. I love that. I love that it's not just, hey, we just did this fun, episode with songs. It's no, we did this fun episode with songs and made it a musical, but also continue the narrative and the story and the characters.
Yeah, that was great. I love that you brought up the scene with Una and Leon. I thought that was very touching, very sweet between the two of them.
Yeah.
And Una shows a lot of growth, right? Because Una's a fantastic first officer, but she's expressing these really, really wise pieces of advice to Leon, which was great.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I did love that. And you brought up we're talking about continuing the narrative with Spock and Nurse Chapel. Because one of the great songs is when Nurse Chapel is in the 10 forward in the bar, and she's celebrating getting into that fellowship. And yeah, it was fantastic, right? And I thought Nurse Chapel was great in that scene. But
the song was awesome too.
The song was awesome.
Really quickly, Chris, I wanted to, continuing. We're talking about Lon and vulnerability.
Yeah.
That even carries over with season 1. You remember the Enterprise Bingo episode? And Lon was really like, we didn't know a lot about her. She's very rigid, very strict, very, she's a security person and she's responsible for seeing this and no shenanigans kind of thing. And then I think it was Una, who kind of gets her to lighten up a little bit and join in the game. And so that was kind of the first moment where we start to see Lon maybe take a step back and relax a little bit. And now we're starting to see it more and more this season, I think, especially in this episode where she allows herself to be incredibly vulnerable.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my mind's going in several different directions.
No, it's all good.
Isn't it ironic that so Leon is a descendant of Khan?
Right.
Khan is Captain Kirk's mortal enemy, essentially. Like when you think about Kirk and Kirk's like greatest enemies throughout Star Trek, it's like Kirk and Khan.
It's Khan, yeah.
It's Khan. It's Khan. So you've got this romantic, potential romantic circumstance between Kirk and the descendant of Khan. So I wonder if that was purposeful.
Irony. That had to have been intentional, right? I mean, we haven't done the episode yet, but we have talked about doing a top 10 all-time villains within Star Trek, right? And kind of similarly to what we did in our very first podcast episode where we ranked our top 10 favorite sci-fi franchises. We talked about, rating what we would consider our top 10 Star Trek villains.
Yeah.
And the question is it where would Khan fall? Where would the Borg fall? Those type of things. So we'll have that conversation at some point. But you're right. I think many people would consider Khan Kirk's mortal enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that single-handedly in the original series, and then also in Wrath of Khan, right? I mean, literally, a villain gets his own movie.
Yeah.
You could argue the Borg do as well in First Contact. So it's like, well, is it the Borg? Is it Khan? Is it Q? We'll talk about that sometime.
That's a great preview. We're foreshadowing.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, good scenes with Kirk and Leon working together. I think they are, they're definitely feeling the potential chemistry between one another. Leon, to Leon's great credit, she does share what she's thinking with Kirk, and I thought that was a great scene. Took a lot of courage from Leon, but says, hey, this is what's going on. I knew this alternate version of you, and this is what happened. So a super great scene between them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, she gets her heart broken, right? Because this Kirk even says, "I'm not that Kirk," and as a matter of fact, I'm kind of in a relationship with somebody on and off again, and currently it's on. Did you notice the name he said?
Yeah, did
Carol?
Carol
Like Carol, is it Markinson, right?
Marcus
Carol
Yeah.
Marcus. Which of course we know that from, Star Trek
Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan, yeah, from Wrath of Khan. And oh, by the way, she's pregnant, which would indicate the birth of David soon.
Yeah.
Right? Which is her son, which is Kirk's son, who is eventually killed by the Klingons, right? In Star Trek 3. And so yeah, I think it's fantastic that they have gone and dropped that in, because that's continuing what we know of Kirk. While this Kirk is different. Things are different in this new Star Trek than they are in the previous one. And we talked about, Doug, the idea of the multiverse, right? And so forth. But at the end of the day, this makes sense. And so I think it's a great little Easter egg that they dropped in.
Yeah, it was. I think Doug had I think Doug's idea about the multiverse is a good one, because when Kirk says, "Yeah, her name's Carol, and I think you'd really like her. You're a lot like her," and she's pregnant. So in this version of reality, Kirk is aware that he's going to have a child. I always thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I always thought in Star Trek Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan, David he had no knowledge that he had a son until that was
I think you're
revealed to him.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. From what I can remember, I don't believe that it was portrayed in a way that Kirk knew.
Yeah.
And he doesn't learn that until at some point in the movie. And then once he learns that, now it's a son, and why do you think he's so affected by it in Star Trek 3? But that's a good point you bring up, actually. Yeah. I have to go back and look. I've been meaning to go back and watch through all the TOS movies.
Yeah.
I did watch the motion picture not that long ago, but I need to go back and watch Star Trek 2 through 6. I'll grit my teeth through Star Trek 5.
Star Trek 5 is good.
Yeah, that's another discussion. But I got to go back and watch those movies, because it's been a while since I've watched a lot of them, at least from beginning to end, versus just catching clips of them on TV.
Yeah.
So I got to go back and do that. It'd be good to refresh my memory.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, it was great that they dropped that Easter egg with Carol Marcus. A lot of foreshadowing there. Perhaps we'll see Carol Marcus in a potential future episode of Strange New World. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't put it past anyone, but it's just one of those things again where it's like, okay, so they have resolved the Kirk and Lon relationship, basically, right? He's with a woman, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, can we cut back on the Kirk? And I'm not a basher of Kirk. In this show, I don't think we need this much Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, I feel like if they wanted to give Lon like an emotion, like a romantic relationship, they could have done it with another member of the crew, right? They could have done it with Kirk's brother. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing that says they couldn't have had Sam Kirk and her, have a thing. I don't see the reason why we need to bring Kirk into this like we did. Anyways, I'm not going to get on that rant again, Chris. If you want to watch my full rant, go watch our review. Which episode did I do my rant in about Kirk? Was it
tomorrow?
No, I think it was the one after that. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look, but one of our previous reviews.
Yeah.
It was recently. Was it under the Cloak of War? No, it wasn't the Cloak of War, was it? Maybe it was. I don't remember. It was in one of them.
Gotcha.
One of our reviews of Strange New World season 2, I went off on a Kirk rant about why we have Kirk so much. It might have. Oh, you know what it was? It was in a review of Lost in Translation, I believe. I think that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's right. Because he is in there.
Yeah, he is. He's in. Seems like almost every episode.
Because Uhura thinks that he's hitting on her. He's like, I'm not hitting.
That's what it is. Yes, that's what it is. Yep. So it's in that. So if you want to see the full rant, go back and watch or listen to our episode number 6 review of Lost in Translation, and you can hear the full effect of that. And Chris has to just sit there and go, Okay, anyways. Actually, I think
all good, my friend.
I think to some extent you agreed to some extent of it. But yeah, I'm not opposed to having Kirk in the show. I just think it's way too much at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pike, there's so much more that we can explore from Pike.
Well, does it feel like we've gotten more Kirk than we have Pike in this season? I feel like I've seen Kirk more than I've seen Pike.
We definitely have had less of Pike, and I feel like more of Kirk as a character and developing Kirk's character, and that's been on the Kirk side. And Pike, it's been the stuff that Pike has been. It's kind of been maintaining his character a little bit on his development, especially when he's interacting with Captain Patel, but more I feel like it's maintaining the character of Pike with a little bit of development. On Kirk, it's developing Kirk more and more as a character.
But that's the thing, though. And again, I'm gonna just stop getting on my rant, but do we really need to develop Kirk a lot more? Like, don't we already know a lot about him? I'd like to know more about Pike. That's why I'm watching the show, Pike and the crew, not Kirk. I mean, yeah, we know a lot about Spock. It's great to see Spock in this different light in this time period, right? Before he meets, well, he has met Kirk, but before he becomes, the first officer under Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we've got enough Kirk. I don't think we need a ton more. I want more Pike. I want more Una. I want more young Uhura. More Pelia. Like, give us the main characters. Give us Una. Give us Lieutenant Ortegas. I mean, my goodness, give us more of her. Give us more Chapel. Like, more Dr. Mbenga. Give us that. Not Kirk. Put Kirk off to the side till the end of the show.
Understand.
And that's not a slam against Paul Wesley. It's just I definitely disagree with the amount we're getting. So, all right, let's move on before my rant continues.
Understand. So Spock, he's dealing with the fact that he's just learned that Nurse Chapel has accepted the fellowship, and he was not told, and she had let everyone else know, and so he's feeling pretty bad. So we get to see him sing about that. Ethan Peck does a fabulous job. But congratulations to Nurse Chapel again. She's gonna go off and do this fellowship, and it'll be good. But
yeah, she earned it.
Yeah,
they've definitely made it appear as though that she's earned it, right? The work she's put in, she knows that the good work she's done, that this is something that she's earned.
And isn't it just only a 3-month fellowship?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's obviously worth it to her. I mean, this is a very prestigious thing, right?
Right. But I wasn't certain if it was 3 months and then she'd be back on the ship, which I was like, that's, not terribly long. 3 months can go by fast.
But if you really like someone, Chris, 3 months is forever.
Yeah. I guess it's a deal breaker for them because now they're over, or he feels they're over.
Well, yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, hopefully for your sake and your sanity, Chris, hopefully this isn't them exiting Nurse Chapel stage left from the show.
No, they cannot.
I think you'd have to go on strike yourself, I think.
Yes, I would go on strike. Yes.
You'd be outside of Paramount picketing going, more we want chapel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think so they're trying to figure out how to get out of this space fold phenomenon because it's spread out throughout the fleet and it continues to spread, and now they're in a predicament where apparently this musical reality and the space fold phenomenon will potentially destroy everything or destroy the quadrant, all of that. So Uhura kind of realizes, hey, to break out of that reality, they have to, and this is where my understanding gets a little bit fuzzy, because I'm just kind of, we're stretched to the disbelief, but to break out of this musical reality that they are in, they must get to a certain harmonic, or I think, or some sort of hertz frequency, something like that, so that it will destroy the space fold. And in order to do this, they have to sing, right?
As a crew, right?
As a crew to be able to get out. Yeah. So that is their path to get out of this musical reality, and they start going down that path. And Pike informs the crew to say, "Hey, we're all going to do this, and Uhura is going to lead us in that." So that takes us down that path of the Enterprise as a whole ship and a whole crew combining together to sing to get out of this predicament.
And I thought, I mean, like many musicals, right? If you go to theater and stuff, Broadway and everything, that this final song that they did was really spectacular. Like the music, the words, it was really good. It was really good. I think I'm trying to think if it was which song was it this one, or there was one. Maybe it was it was the one in engineering, I think, that Uhura singing, I think was my favorite. But this one was really good though. This kind of, the grand finale, right?
Yeah.
Was really well done. And that just the choreography, the music, it was really fun. But there is a moment in this final number where we get a Klingon pop band, quote unquote, number. I have seen, since this episode's come out, I have seen so much on social media about people's love for what they're calling the K-pop, the Klingon pop, right? It was very goofy, right? I mean, not something Klingons normally do, but I thought it was hilarious and really good.
I did too. I thought it was super that they did that. It just made everything so fun in that episode. I mean, it was already fun, but then they do this, and they do this with the Klingons, and it's so self-aware on the Klingons that it was just great. It just notched it up to another level, on how I felt about it.
Yeah, I agree. I have seen many memes already. I have seen many posts.
Yeah.
People just ranting and raving about this. It's a small moment. It's not very long. A really small moment within the episode, right? Where we get this number by the Klingons, this K-pop, and yet it's small amount of time, really popular.
Wasn't it? There was a short communication from the Klingons where they were going to try and destroy the space fold or shoot some torpedoes at it, or whatever. They're saying we've located the source of our dishonor. I think they were.
Yeah. They were going to destroy it.
Yeah.
And they were en route to destroy the fold. And so Pike knew they had to try to hurry up and do this, because I believe if they destroyed the fold, this was going to be a permanent thing or something, right? Yeah. This effect wouldn't be able to be reversed if they had destroyed that fold. They figured this out scientifically using Lord knows what.
It was scientifically, yeah.
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 It's very scientific. Let's just all sing really loud, really long, and get these decibels up, whatever, and then it'll fix it.
And it fixed it. Lots of questionable science in this one.
Yeah, I don't think science was the driving force behind this episode. I think it was more the music, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was great. They're able this grand finale. They're able to get out of it. This wonderful dancing on the bridge to get out of the predicament, and it
Yeah,
worked.
and it worked. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the end of the episode is not the musical part. Captain Batel says something to the effect of like, "Oh, you're going to get your wish. I'm gonna have to delay our vacation because I've got some priority mission that I've got to get to." Which
Oh,
we'll be curious to see if that is part of the season 2 finale. Now, remember when we started talking the very beginning of this season, we did our episode 1 review, right? And then we talked about maybe some expectations or certain things we were hoping to see or we may see.
mhm.
One of those is, if I remember correctly, in the trailer, we saw a face-to-face, literal face-to-face um, meeting between one of the characters. I don't remember if it was Lon or somebody else, and the Gorn.
Yeah.
I had a sneaking suspicion back then, and I still do, and we'll find out at the time of this recording. We'll find out, you know, at the earliest tomorrow when the finale's out, as to whether or not the finale is this Gorn moment. I think because season finales are always cliffhangers and some big thing, right? So are season premieres. I think that we're gonna have a run in with the Gorn in in episode 10. I really do. I think it's going to be wild. I hope and pray that we do not have another main character death like we did with Hemmer in season 1. But I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to get the Gorn. And
Is
it's going to be bloody. And
yeah.
I wonder if that's where she's headed to.
I think I think your prediction is probably right on. A concern that I have, I hope nothing bad happens to Captain Patel. That would be
Yeah. Oh,
heartbreaking. That'd be heartbreaking
now that you just said that, oh man, I hope not.
because she's called away on a priority mission. So it sounds like, it's important and then it could be dangerous. They've been developing this relationship between Pike and Patel. Man, that would just be heartbreaking.
Yeah, and the fact that they were talking about discussing the vacation later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh man, I hope you just didn't wish that into existence, or not wish it, but speak it into existence, man. Oh, that my heart kind of sinks already even thinking about that idea. I hope not, or at the very minimum. I mean, if something's going to happen to her, at least something that she can recover from, or she's not going to die. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I could see something maybe happening to her, but hopefully it's not something that's fatal, because that would be
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah. 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 Would.
Because, like you said, you made this known many, many times. In fact, I think every time that she's appeared, we are like, I really like her. Like I
Yeah.
like her with Pike, and I agree.
Yeah. All right, Star Trek Strange New Worlds creators, please don't do that to us.
Yeah,
Um,
let's not. I
yeah.
mean, let's not. I will say though, on a lighter note, the episode ends in a very funny manner, where apparently Spock was the only one that could go negotiate with the Klingons, and he comes back having
Mhm.
had a few too many blood wines. You could tell he's kind of like, as he walks in the bridge, he was kind of tells, oh, like he doesn't feel well, and which harkens back to a previous episode where he was drinking blood wine with the Klingons in this season.
Yeah. Spock the negotiator with the
That's
Klingons.
right.
That's excellent.
Well, it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense, right? Because we've seen Spock as a negotiator before.
Mhm.
He, in Star Trek 6, I believe he's the one that kind of brings the meeting with Chancellor Gorkon together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else is like, let the Klingons die. We don't care if they run out of resources. Chancellor Gorkon wants to come, meet with us. And so they send Kirk, but it seems like Spock's part of that, setting that whole thing up. And then also an older Spock tries to negotiate with
Romulans. Yeah.
Romulans, I believe, in the Federation. So Spock is not. We know Spock can be an ambassador and a negotiator. So this is not outside of Spock's lane by any means.
No, you're right. This is part of a like early foundation for his character to become that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean he's a big part of helping to prove Spock and Kirk's innocence, which helps propel the peace talks forward and sign in one of the most important documents, documents into the Federation existence, which is the Khitomer Accords.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal for the Federation and the Klingons. So yeah, Spock's an important part. We know. I mean, and heck, his father was a heck of a negotiator as well, an ambassador.
Yeah.
So his family has a very long history of being involved with negotiations and discussions amongst other alien species.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Really good.
Yeah.
So how'd you feel overall?
Overall, I wouldn't say this is my favorite episode.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I think like the last episode, those old scientists with the strange new or the lower decks crossover. It was better than I was expecting it to be. Not that I had low expectations, but I just think it was better. In fact, I started going back and watching season 1 of Lower Decks. I didn't realize this because this is how out of it I am with Lower Decks. There's only 10 episodes a season, and each episode is only like 20 some minutes. So you could bust through a whole season in a couple hours.
Okay, that's good to know.
Which is good to know. And actually, I've watched the first 4 episodes or 5 episodes of season 1 of Lower Decks. I have my complaints. The young officers are super insubordinate and they're super mouthy and like just but it's very fun. There is some very good humor in it, very funny moments, and a lot of Easter eggs. Lots of callbacks to other shows, which is great. Like there's one episode where they talk about the Janeway Protocol, and one of the guys like, what's the Janeway Protocol? But yeah, I would say this episode overall was much more fun than I thought it was going to be, and the music was really good. There were a couple songs I was like, they were okay, but they weren't my favorite. But there were some really good songs in this. I would say that maybe the biggest complaint for this episode I had was the fact that there were moments where the singing, the intensity of the singing didn't match what you saw on screen.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you noticed that, but like moments where it looks like the characters starting to sing out and project more and louder.
Yeah.
It doesn't kind of match the vocal inflections of what you see on screen.
Oh, right.
Because you know what they're singing on screen. They're not. That's not them. I mean, if they go and sing it, they're singing it in a sound booth or something.
Yeah.
They're not. So I get the difficulty probably of having to match that up. But that was kind of maybe my biggest gripe, and it's pretty small.
I gotcha. Yeah, because from a visual perspective, right? That kind of your brain's going, oh, that doesn't match up visually.
Yeah, exactly. So, what about you? What did you think overall?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said at the beginning of our episode, like I'm a big fan of the Buffy musicals. That's the style, and Buffy the Vampire, the musical, was my favorite Buffy episode of all. So I think I came into this Star Trek episode not really knowing what to expect, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it stands. This is one that I'll take as a one-off, like I was talking about those old scientists, where I enjoy it more as a one-off by itself. Like if it was a holiday special again, those I love, I really, really enjoy. Just like the Doctor Who holiday specials, like those are great. So yeah, this one will stick with me for a while. I really, really enjoyed it. What would make me not, when I say one off, if something bad happens to the characters later on in this season, in the season finale, that will actually make me enjoy this musical episode less, because then I'm going to have that in my mind.
Oh yeah. So when you watch it, I see them having fun, but the fate of one of them, right?
Yeah.
So
that's just me. I know that's not going to be for everyone. Everyone's going to be different, but yeah. But I can say I did really enjoy this.
Yeah, it was fun. It really was. I thought the choreography was great. I mean, come on. The dancing red shirts in the hallway, like we mentioned earlier, that was there's probably a GIF of that out there somewhere that we'll have to post. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was whimsical. The music was well written. The choreography was great. Some of the songs were really catchy. I felt like
Yeah,
I really like that song that Uhura did in the engineering.
yeah. To to your knowledge, this is where I am completely ignorant on this. Has there ever been a either a Broadway or theatrical or even cruise ship style Star Trek musical? Like,
That's a good question. I don't know that there has been. Maybe I'd have to go do some research because I don't know
okay,
off the top of my head. I
okay.
couldn't give you a solid answer one way or the other.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about. Like like Hamilton style
Yeah.
musical.
I want to say no, but again, I don't off the top of my head, I can't think.
Yeah. I'd have to research too. Like if they're just judging from the response people have had with this particular episode, people really liked it. So I
Yeah,
could see a great audience for that type of forum.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Well, this was fun. We had a great time watching the episode. We had a great time talking about the episode. And we look forward to doing our episode number 10 review, which is going to be the season finale, of course, coming soon. That should be at the time of this recording. That should be out sometime this weekend after we get through that. And it'll be a little sad because we just don't know when we're going to get more Strange New Worlds. We don't know when season
Yeah.
3 will be out. We don't know when they'll even be able to start it. So it's going to be interesting to see how long we have to go between this and the next show. We obviously have plenty more coming. From my time at the convention, we look forward to at some point in the near and far term having some amazing guests on. So really looking forward to that. We'll be able to have some on regardless because they're not in the in SAG or the Writers Guild. Others will probably wait longer just until everything's all cleared up and they're able to and freely be able to talk about everything. But we have some amazing stuff coming. I'm telling you guys and gals, believe me, we have some fantastic guests coming down the pipe, and we cannot wait to share that with you. Coming soon.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, we look forward
Incredible.
to it. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening to us all over the globe and the.
The interwebs.
That's
Thank you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I gotta pause and let you say that because that's all you, Chris. We do appreciate it as always. Be sure to again to go on to Facebook and Instagram and like us and follow us on those platforms. So you get all the latest episode announcements, updates, and celebrity guest announcements. Also, be sure to go out to YouTube if you're just listening to us, or if you're watching us. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment below. Let us know how we're doing on this. We very much appreciate that moving forward. So thank you, everybody, so much. Take care, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.